All right, let's talk about the journey of recorded music. It is an absolutely incredible story. We're going to trace its path from the very first sound ever captured, all the way to where we are now, with music being created by AI. It's a wild ride, so let's just dive right in. But before we get into the tech, just stop and imagine this for a second. Imagine a world where you could only hear a song once. You go to a concert, you hear this amazing performance, and then, poof, it's just gone. It only exists in your memory. That, right there, was the reality for basically all of human history. So the big question is, how on earth did we get from that to this, to having pretty much every song ever recorded sitting right in our pockets? Well, it all goes back to this really ancient human dream. This deep-seated desire we've always had to just capture a moment of sound. Think about it, a loved one's voice, a melody that just hits you right, and to preserve it forever. To somehow hold on to something that by its very nature is supposed to just vanish. And for thousands of years, that dream was exactly that, just a dream, pure fantasy. But then something shifted. In the late 19th century, one brilliant inventor finally cracked the code. He figured out how to turn that fantasy into a physical, tangible thing. And here it is. This is Thomas Edison's phonograph from back in 1877. I mean, what a revolutionary machine. It used a really simple needle to basically etch sound waves onto a rotating cylinder covered in tinfoil. And then, when you played it back, the needle would just trace those same grooves and boom, the sound came back. This was it. For the very first time in history, a sound was captured and held on a physical object. Just incredible. But, and this is a huge but, there was a catch. These early recordings, they were singular, really fragile objects. You could record a sound, sure, but you couldn't just make copies. It wasn't possible. So every single cylinder was a one-of-a-kind performance. We had captured music, which was amazing, but it wasn't free yet. It wasn't accessible to everyone. And you know what? That one single problem kicked off a whole century of just unbelievable innovation. So that's our roadmap for this journey. We're starting here in the acoustic era with Edison. Then we'll jump to the electrical era and mass production, then the digital era with its perfect copies, and finally we land in the streaming era, the world of infinite access we all live in right now. Okay, so how did we get music out of the inventor's lab and into, our actual homes? The next huge leap forward wasn't just about capturing music anymore. It was all about spreading it everywhere. The answer? The gramophone and its flat disc, what we now know as the vinyl record. And this solved the cylinder's biggest problem, making copies. Suddenly, you could press thousands of identical records from a single master recording. Vinyl was way more durable. And this innovation, this one idea, turned music from a scientific curiosity into a real product you could buy in a store. And the cultural impact of this was just staggering. Think about it. All of a sudden, you didn't have to be in a big city and go to a fancy concert hall to hear a world-class orchestra. For the very first time, the world's greatest music could be played right there in your living room. I mean, this changed absolutely everything. Then the next big evolution came along, and this one made music truly personal. I'm talking about the cassette tape. First off, it was portable, right? You could take your music anywhere with a Walkman. But even more important, you could record on it. And this gave birth to an entire culture, the mixtape, the original playlist. It was this amazing personal expression. You'd record songs right off the radio or your vinyl records to share with friends. What a time. But here's the thing. Whether we're talking about a groove carved into vinyl or tiny magnetic particles on a tape, all these formats were analog. The next revolution was a completely different beast. It was a total paradigm shift. We were about to move from the physical world into the clean, precise, mathematical world of ones and zeros. And that brings us to the compact CD, the CD. It could hold around 74 minutes of music, which was a huge jump in how much you could fit compared to a vinyl record. And the big selling point? The sound quality was marketed as perfect. No more crackles, no hiss, just pure digital information being read by a laser beam. Pretty futuristic. But the CD was still a physical thing, right? You had to carry it around. The truly disruptive step was separating the music from the object itself. And the MP3 file did exactly that. It took all that digital information from a CD, compressed it way down, and turned it into this tiny little portable file. The impact? It was massive. You went from carrying maybe 15 songs on a CD in your Discman to carrying thousands of songs in your pocket. And of course, once music just became a simple little computer file, it was ready for its fateful collision with the internet. This kicked off a chaotic, transformative, totally wild era that completely reshaped the music industry and changed how we listen to music forever. You can really break this whole internet revolution down into three main stages. First, you had the total anarchy of Napster, the Wild West, where millions of people were sharing files freely, and yeah, illegally. Then, Apple brought some order to the chaos with iTunes, creating a legal way to actually buy and own a digital song for 99 cents. And finally, we got to where we are now, with services like Spotify that gave us the freedom of access. You don't own the music anymore. You just have access to, well, everything. And just like that, we arrived. We built the celestial jukebox. That ancient dream was finally fully realized. A practically infinite library of music available instantly anywhere you are in the world. Think about that journey. From one single fragile cylinder to everything. So that brings our incredible journey right up to today. But guess what? The innovation has not stopped. Not even close. We're now looking at the next frontier, and it's one where technology isn't just playing music for us, it's actively involved in creating it. And this isn't science fiction anymore, folks. This is happening right now. Today, artificial intelligence can compose original melodies, it can produce full tracks in pretty much any genre you can think of, and it can even generate vocals that sound just like human singers. Technology has officially graduated from being a playback device to being a creative partner. And that brings us to our final and maybe most important question. We've gone all the way from capturing a live performance to generating a brand new one from scratch. So if AI is composing the music, what's the role of the human artist now? What does creativity even mean in this new world? Definitely something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey.